deer on his land. And then they were going to sneak around and come get it like at night. And
Noise didn't scare Ronnie. Silence did. Every new town came with the same ritual. New classroom, new faces, new assumptions. Teachers never learned his story long enough to care. Classmates didn't bother asking where he came from, because by the time they did, he was already leaving again. That kind of childhood doesn't give you roots, it gives you radar. Ronnie learned to listen before he spoke, to feel a room before stepping into it. That instinct followed him everywhere. In bars, he watched which lyrics made shoulders loosen. In churches, he learned when harmony mattered more than volume. He didn't just hear music, he studied how people responded to it. That's why his voice never sounded trained in the traditional sense. It sounded lived in. When he played saxophone, breath control taught him patience. You couldn't rush air. You couldn't force tone. If you did, everything cracked. Years later, that same discipline shaped his singing. Long notes that didn't beg for attention, they commanded it. At home, exhaustion was normal. His father's hands were rough, his guitar strings were not. Music happened late at night, after work had already taken its toll. Ronnie absorbed that lesson quietly. Creation comes after labor, not before it. There was no illusion of overnight success, no fantasy of being discovered, just repetition, practice, commitment. By the time other kids were dreaming about fame, Ronnie was already learning endurance. He didn't know it yet, but that endurance would carry him through decades of touring, reinvention, and survival in an industry that chews up talent without mercy. The voice that came from nowhere wasn't accidental, it was forged. Being expelled didn't feel dramatic at first, it felt quiet. No shouting, no public shame, just the slow realization that the future everyone had planned for him no longer existed. Ronnie packed his things without knowing what came next. For the first time, faith didn't feel comforting, it felt unanswered. But doubt didn't erase belief, it deepened it. Leading church music forced him to confront something bars never did: responsibility. When people sing with you in worship, you carry their grief, their hope, their fear. Ronnie learned restraint there, learned when not to show off, learned when silence mattered more than sound. That discipline saved him later. At night, bars stripped everything else away. No polite applause, no forgiveness. If a song didn't land, people talked over it, ordered drinks, walked out. Tulsa crowds were unforgiving and honest. Ronnie sharpened himself there. Every rejection carved clarity. Every failed set taught precision. He stopped singing what he thought people wanted. He sang what felt true, and people leaned in. This is where his voice changed permanently. It roughened, lowered, took on weight. It wasn't pretty, it was believable. The kind of voice that sounded like it had lived a little too hard and still showed up anyway. Tulsa didn't give him fame, it gave him identity. By the time Nashville came calling years later, Ronnie wasn't searching for himself anymore. He already knew who he was, a singer shaped by contradiction, held together by faith, and sharpened by failure. That combination can't be taught, it has to be earned. The demo Ronnie sent wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, it was honest. That honesty cut through a system drowning in hopeful voices. Producers heard something different, not ambition, but weight. Someone who didn't need to prove he belonged, someone who already knew disappointment. Meeting Kix Brooks didn't feel magical, it felt uncomfortable. Two men with scars from years of rejection aren't quick to trust opportunity. They were defensive, cautious, almost cynical, and that's exactly why it worked. Their sessions weren't smooth. They argued, scrapped ideas, started over, but every song carried truth, broken hearts, small-town pride, regret, humor. Nothing felt manufactured because neither man had anything left to fake. Brand New Man wasn't just a title, it was confession. When the album hit, success came fast, too fast. Suddenly the industry that ignored them wanted everything. Tours multiplied, interviews stacked, expectations exploded. But underneath it all was something unshakable: perspective. They knew how close quitting had come. That knowledge grounded them when fame tried to rewrite reality. Every sold-out show felt earned. Every chart position felt borrowed. They didn't chase trends, they trusted instinct. That instinct came from gas stations, bars, and decades of no's. History didn't start because they were lucky, it started because they were ready. Dominance at that level doesn't come from luck, it comes from repetition that borders on obsession. Year after year, Brooks and Dunn became the standard everyone else was measured against. New duos weren't compared to their peers, they were compared to them. Radio programmers trusted their names blindly. Promoters built tours around their presence. Labels chased their formula and never quite caught it. Ronnie felt that weight every night on stage. When you're expected to deliver perfection, emotion becomes a job requirement. He couldn't just sing well, he had to sound essential. Every show demanded the same intensity, regardless of fatigue, illness, or doubt. And the road never stopped. Cities blurred together, hotels replaced homes, studio sessions happened between flights. Success removed margin, not pressure. There was no room to experiment publicly, no room to miss. When something works that well, changing it feels dangerous. So they kept moving. Behind the scenes, communication shortened. Decisions became transactional, not hostile, just efficient. That efficiency kept the machine running, but it stripped joy from the process. The applause still hit, the adrenaline still surged, but recovery time disappeared. Ronnie later admitted he didn't know how tired he was until he stopped. Exhaustion had become normal. Silence had become foreign. From the outside, it looked unstoppable. From the inside, it felt unsustainable. Dominance didn't break them all at once. It wore them down quietly. The announcement shocked fans because it lacked drama. People expected explosions, not acceptance. But that quiet ending revealed something deeper. Both men knew the cost of continuing outweighed the fear of stopping. For Ronnie, silence arrived fast. No tour bus hum, no set lists, no shared momentum. The brand that once defined him vanished overnight, and with it went structure. When you've lived inside routine for decades, freedom doesn't feel liberating, it feels disorienting. Creating alone exposed insecurities he hadn't faced in years. Every song felt like a test, every review felt personal. Without the duo's history to cushion him, criticism landed harder. The industry moved fast. Radio wanted youth, labels wanted trends. Ronnie offered depth, and depth wasn't fashionable. That rejection reopened old wounds. The same doubts from his early career resurfaced, louder this time because he had more to lose. Legacy doesn't protect you from irrelevance, it magnifies the fear of it. This wasn't about ego, it was about identity. For the first time, Ronnie had to answer a question success had postponed. Who am I when the crowd isn't guaranteed? And for a moment, he didn't know. Walking away from the chase wasn't surrender, it was recalibration. Ronnie's writing slowed. Songs grew heavier, more reflective. He stopped worrying about hooks and started worrying about truth. That shift changed everything. Audiences didn't just listen, they recognized themselves in his work. Bleed Red didn't succeed because it chased trends, it succeeded because it spoke plainly. Patriotism without polish, pain without packaging. The voice sounded older and stronger for it. Launching his own label wasn't glamorous, it was risky. Distribution headaches, financial exposure, creative responsibility with no buffer. But for the first time, Ronnie controlled the pace. He could say no, he could experiment, he could fail quietly. That freedom reignited curiosity. Genre lines blurred because he stopped respecting them. Critics were confused, fans were divided. Ronnie didn't flinch.
Art felt alive again. Rebuilding didn't mean returning to who he was. It meant becoming who he'd been avoiding. The reunion worked because it wasn't fueled by need. Both men had proven they could survive apart. That changed the energy completely. The Vegas shows weren't obligations, they were choices. Night after night, the chemistry felt relaxed, confident, unforced. Audiences noticed immediately. The songs hit harder because time had lived inside them. Lyrics about heartbreak, regret, and redemption carried new weight. Ronnie's voice hadn't softened, it had deepened. Age didn't dull the edge, it sharpened it. Reboot wasn't nostalgia, it was reinterpretation. Inviting younger artists wasn't a marketing trick, it was acknowledgement. Influence doesn't diminish when shared, it multiplies. Hearing new voices carry old songs proved their relevance wasn't frozen in the past. They weren't reclaiming dominance, they were redefining legacy. The reunion didn't erase the cracks, it honored the journey. And that's why it mattered. For decades, Ronnie Dunn's body had been a machine. Nights on stage, miles on the road, constant recording sessions. He had pushed it harder than most could imagine. But in late 2024, even the strongest engines falter. A ski accident led to a total knee replacement, a grueling 12-hour surgery that left him immobile for weeks. And just when recovery seemed like the focus, life hit again. COVID-19, then strep throat, compounding each other in a rare, dangerous combination. At 72, every breath, every step, every note became a test. Audiences noticed. He no longer sprinted across stages or owned every arena with his usual energy. He sat more, caught his breath between lines. His voice, once unshakable,
cracked under the weight of survival. Then came the Indianapolis moment. Mid-encore, Ronnie paused, waved to the crowd, and walked off stage. The clip went viral instantly. Fans feared the worst. Was the legend finished? But Ronnie didn't hide. He faced it with honesty. He admitted the vulnerability fans hadn't seen before. He was healing. He was scared. He was uncertain. And yet, he wasn't finished. This was more than a health scare. It was a public lesson in resilience. It reminded everyone that endurance isn't measured by perfection. It's measured by the courage to keep moving when your body reminds you that limits exist. Even legends breathe differently at 72. And sometimes, showing the struggle is more inspiring than showing the flawless performance ever could be. After decades of relentless touring, Ronnie Dunn discovered a different stage, one that demanded honesty rather than perfection. Exhaustion wasn't a badge of honor anymore. It was a signal to adapt. For the first time, fans saw the man behind the microphone, not just the powerhouse voice. He spoke about mental health, therapy, and the constant pressure of an industry that consumes talent without remorse. He shared the quiet truths that most legends hide, moments of doubt, days of despair, nights of isolation. But instead of crumbling, he leaned into them. He didn't just talk, he acted. Younger artists became protégés, guided by someone who had survived fame, separation, and near invisibility. He launched mentorship programs, offered advice, and created spaces where emerging voices could thrive without the crushing weight of expectation. Even his personal passions, like photography, became tools for healing. Wide-open plains, wildlife, and cowboy life, captured through his lens, weren't just artistic outlets. They were reminders that life exists beyond applause, beyond numbers, beyond hits. Strength stopped being loud. It stopped being defined by arenas and accolades. Instead, it became honest, vulnerable, human. And that vulnerability became a gift to fans. They didn't just cheer for the voice, they respected the man. They connected with his truth. Every shared struggle, every candid reflection, every mentorship moment became part of the legacy he could finally own on his terms. Ronnie Dunn taught the world that endurance isn't just surviving on stage, it's surviving inside yourself and thriving in spite of it. Ronnie Dunn's story isn't measured in #1 hits, sold-out arenas, or platinum records. It's measured in survival, in integrity, in refusing to compromise identity for applause. It's a story about staying human in an industry designed to erase humanity. From a childhood split between honky-tonk bars and Baptist pews to a life spent dominating country music, Ronnie's journey has been one of constant adaptation. He navigated instability, rejection, fame, exhaustion, and physical hardship, and still he persisted. That persistence isn't glamorous, it isn't loud, it's relentless. His career shows that success without endurance is meaningless. Achievements are hollow if they cost your voice, your soul, or your self-respect. Ronnie's choices, leaving major labels, mentoring new artists, embracing vulnerability, reveal the hidden truth of greatness. It's not about the spotlight, it's about resilience. Even at 72, when the body falters, when the voice wavers, when fame fades, Ronnie proves that legacy isn't in the numbers, it's in influence, in honesty, in the courage to continue. He reminds us that evolution is essential, that faith doesn't require perfection, that reinvention is possible at any stage. Some stories aren't meant to end loudly, they're meant to last. And Ronnie Dunn's story is exactly that. A story of endurance, of heart, of staying true to oneself. A story where strength and vulnerability coexist, where music reflects life, not just entertainment. Because real legends aren't just remembered for what they do on stage, they're remembered for how they survive, adapt, and inspire long after the final note fades.